The Senate chamber was silent for a split second, the kind of silence that holds its breath before history is made. Then, Senator John Kennedy leaned forward, his voice steady, his gaze sharp, and delivered words that would echo far beyond the walls of Congress. "If you don't like America, leave." The room shifted, some gasped, some nodded, and some sat frozen in disbelief. That single sentence was not just an argument, it was a thunderclap of conviction. For weeks, tensions had been building. America was in the midst of bitter debates about identity, freedom, and justice. Elizabeth Warren had taken the floor several times, passionately criticizing the country's systems, its history, its inequalities, its failures. She spoke with fiery energy, capturing the frustrations of many who felt America had not lived up to its promises. But for others, her words felt like constant condemnation, as though the country itself was irredeemable. John Kennedy, a man known for his wit and sharp humor, usually played the role of the clever Southerner with a one-liner ready to diffuse the room. But that day, he wasn't joking. He sat quietly at first, letting Warren's words flow across the chamber, her critique of America painting a picture of deep flaws and systemic injustice. When she concluded, he rose slowly, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "Madam President," Kennedy began, addressing the presiding officer, his Louisiana drawl clear, "I've been listening, I've been patient, and I think patience is important in this chamber. But I cannot sit quietly when the greatest country in the history of the world is being spoken of like it's some kind of failed experiment." The air tightened as senators leaned in. Kennedy continued, "America isn't perfect, the Lord knows we've made mistakes, but what separates this nation from all others is that we do not stay in our mistakes, we move forward, we fight, we improve, we give more opportunity, more freedom, more hope, than anywhere else on this planet." His words grew stronger, sharper, cutting through the chamber. "And so I say this with respect, but with all the conviction I have. If you don't like America, leave. Nobody is forcing you to stay. Because the men and women who built his nation didn't give their lives so we could sit around tearing it down. They gave their lives so we could stand taller tomorrow than we do today." There was an audible murmur across the room. Some senators exchanged stunned glances. Others leaned back, nodding, as if Kennedy had spoken a truth they were too cautious to say aloud. Elizabeth Warren shot back, her tone fierce, accusing Kennedy of ignoring suffering, of silencing dissent, of pretending America's wounds didn't exist. But Kennedy didn't flinch. Instead, he softened his voice, not weaker, but deeper, more heartfelt. "Senator Warren, I don't ignore America's wounds. I carry them. I come from a place where poverty is real, where people fight every day to put food on the table. But you know what? Those same people never give up on America. They don't hate this country, they fight to make it better, and they do it because they love it. You see, it's possible to love something and still want to heal it, but it is not possible to despise something and ever expect it to thrive." The chamber grew still again. For a moment, the debate stopped being about policy. It was about something deeper, the soul of the country. Kennedy wasn't just speaking to Warren, he was speaking to every American listening at home, to the ones who felt pride in their nation but also frustration with its flaws, to the ones torn between criticism and love. And then he told a story that silenced even his loudest critics. He spoke of a young soldier he had met years ago, a man who had lost both legs in Afghanistan. Kennedy had asked him once if he ever regretted serving. The soldier smiled, shaken but unbroken, and replied, "Senator, I don't regret it for a second, because even broken, I'd rather fight for America than live whole anywhere else." Kennedy's voice cracked slightly as he shared that memory. That young man could have cursed this country, he could have walked away from it in his heart, but instead, He chose love, he chose hope, and he chose America. That's the spirit that built this nation, and that's the spirit that will keep her standing long after we're gone. The Senate floor erupted not in chaos, but in applause from both sides. It wasn't unanimous, but it was powerful. Even those who disagreed with Kennedy's politics could feel the truth in his conviction. Warren sat back, her face firm, unwilling to concede defeat, but her fire had met a force it couldn't quite extinguish. As the cameras rolled, Americans across the country sat glued to their screens. Some cheered, some argued, but all of them listened, and in that listening, something shifted. It wasn't about one senator versus another anymore. It was about what it means to love a country enough to fight for it without tearing it apart. When Kennedy left the chamber that night, reporters rushed him, asking if he thought he had gone too far. He stopped, looked into the cameras, and said with that signature Louisiana drawl, "I didn't say it to destroy anyone. I said it to remind everyone, America's not just lines on a map, she's a promise, and promises deserve to be kept." That moment went viral. Millions shared it online. Some praised him, some criticized him, but no one could ignore him. It sparked conversations in living rooms, in classrooms, in workplaces. People debated fiercely but also reflected deeply. And in the end, Kennedy's words left a message that reached far beyond politics. If you want to change something, you fight for it, but you can't build what you constantly tear down. America, like every human being, is flawed, but like every human being, she can grow, she can heal, and she can rise if only her people choose to love her enough to lift her higher. That night, under the Capitol dome, America was reminded of a truth as old as the nation itself: love of country doesn't mean blindness to its faults, it means believing in its future more than its failures. And that belief, spoken from the heart of John Kennedy, was something that could not be silenced.